G'day everyone. Good morning, good morning.
Deco, you guys happy? Gordo?
Everybody
else happy?
Everybody, before we get on to the exciting news of why we're here today, I do have to say we're dealing with a really significant weather event in north and northwest and western Queensland at the moment, and I just want to make some observations. There's the real potential here for some significant pain for western parts of this state, particularly front and centre of those long-term agricultural losses. We saw that in 2019 and what that can mean for communities. But at the moment we're dealing with widespread community isolation. There's impacts to transport. We've got power outages in some areas, and we're doing all we can to reconnect those. There's talk from those long-term locals that this event could exceed the big flood of 1974 in parts of these areas. So that's over half a century, so we are dealing with a significant event over a really large part of Queensland. We've been responding over the course of the last couple of days, and again today I was joined by many of the mayors across those impacted areas, and we will continue to provide the support that they need. The Bureau has reported some falls in the order of up to half a metre of rain over the last few days. They are massive falls for Western Queensland and shows the impact of this system. To give you an example, in the last 20 hours alone, we've had falls of nearly 140 mils southwest of Longreach, over 100 mils in other parts, and that's just in the last 20 hours. Major flood warnings exist for the Thomson, the Barcoo, the Balloo, the Cooper Creek, Georgina, the Western River, Paru River and the Horton River. Just to go through a couple of other points on that. On the Balloo, Quilpie is steady above the major flood level, around 6.29 metres with a peak of 6.4 possible. To give you an indication of the scale of this event, the Burdekin Shire Council has also stood up this morning because of Garoo. So on the Horton, Garoo is steady above the major area, above that major flood level, but that gives you an impact of what is occurring across such a large part of the state. Viduri is expected to remain above the moderate flood level and may reach the bridge level during Thursday. There are severe weather warnings across large parts of this area. We are asking people to stay connected and heed the advice. I just want to address some of the individual communities and then what we will do in response. But in Junda, the Mayor and indeed the local disaster management group predict that water will get to the township of Junda. All residents have been informed. No one has sought evacuations, although there are evacuation plans in town for that. And Windora, also in the same shire, expected water to reach the fringes of that town. They do have power supply because of generation. Again, evacuation plan in place. In Quilpie, a major issue remains communications. Because of a loss of power, that means that there's over 100 people impacted by telecommunications. Council dialed into our Queensland Disaster Management Centre today via other means using Starlink, but because of power outages to the east of that community, there is some major challenges keeping those residents connected. To give you an indication of our response, we are doing all we can right now to be able to get help into there. We are evaluating a safe way that we can land, and the Transport Minister is currently looking at the option of closing Charleville-Quilpie Road to be able to facilitate that, and we'll let people know more in due course. I want to turn to the small town of Addervale, where there is a really significant risk for the small number of people who live in that community. We're talking about only 24 people who live in that area, but water has very recently started to enter homes there. We have Queensland Fire Department helicopters in Addervale as we speak, and they include police and swift water rescue crews to assist there. It's been identified somewhere in the order of 16 to 20 people may require evacuation, and they're being offered that right now. We'll continue to advise the community and provide the support, and we'll update you further. We're going to continue to evaluate those needs as it comes through. Regarding resources, we have SES crews pre-positioned in a number of these Western Queensland towns, helicopters in Charleville and Longreach, and another one will be in Emerald tomorrow. I just want to start, we need to be prepared for major impacts here, particularly to agriculture, as I mentioned. Already it is evident that there will be significant loss to stock in many of these parts. Think about 2019 and what occurs in this situation. You get animals that are stranded standing in water with the temperatures dropping. There is a real risk to loss of stock, and in many cases agriculture underpins these communities, so there's impacts all the way through. And we had the Federal Minister on the call this morning, and a willingness there to be able to mobilise any support that's needed, but the support will be short, medium and long term, because there will be significant impacts. To put it in perspective, there will be property owners who suffer as bad as 2019 because of the magnitude of this flooding. We will continue to work on those power outages that I mentioned. There are outages in Cunnamulla and Quilpie and a number of other places. The Energy Minister was this morning updated us. They have reconnected power to quite a number of these Queenslanders, but we will continue to monitor that. All right, what to expect for now? Rain is predicted to continue for the next couple of days. It is forecast to shift eastward, but there is no doubt that there remains a lot of water in these systems, and Queenslanders in this part of the world certainly know what that means. But a place like Thargomindah, it could be several days before we see the water levels reach that community. Now already, because of localised flooding, they are seeing a large amount of water in the river, but there's a lot more to still flow through, and that certainly provides challenges for that community. The BOM's advised that across Saturday and Sunday the system is expected to move east and south, Sunday into Tuesday easing for the west as it heads a little bit towards the coast, but we'll continue to update people on that. So my final message, this isn't going to ease quickly, and the problems won't just disappear. You're dealing with a large part of the state, and agriculture underpins it, and so too do the people who live in these communities. And we will be there to respond in whatever way, shape or form that takes. But these communities need to know that while small in number, they are big in the social fabric of who we are as a state, and we will be there to assist them. Shortly, after I've got to be in Townsville at lunchtime, but I will be heading to the Winton Shire early on this afternoon, and I'll be joined by Sean Dillon, the local member, separately Anne Lay, who is our Recovery Minister, but also the local member for the Quilpie Shire nearby. She will be getting into there, and we've briefed the Agriculture Minister, Tony Perrott, who will be making sure that he heads into that area and provides the support that's needed into the long term. Okay, any questions on that before we head into our announcement today? Anything, guys? All right. Thank you very much. Well, everyone, today I can officially announce that Cairns will play a starring role in the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. And I want to certainly thank the Mayor for joining us today, as well as the local members. As part of our 2032 delivery plan, I was determined to make sure that there was benefit for all of Queensland, and a place like Cairns knows how to put on a show, and the Far North knows how to put on a performance when the eyes of the world are on it, and I have every faith that Cairns will deliver in spades. Most excitingly will be the impact for sporting and general infrastructure as a result of this plan. Barlow Park will have a major upgrade, and that upgrade is needed to host things like the football, which is going to be really, really exciting. It's also about how can we improve the Bruce to make sure that connectivity between the different venues are there front and centre. Separately, we have the Games On program, which is unashamedly about grassroots sport. Already, the local members have got a shopping list for further rounds, and I'm looking forward to being able to deliver that. But you will recall that we also have a vision for the Menunda Sports Precinct and making sure that we can deliver more content there, and that is a really great venue that could also be of use for particularly for training as part of the Olympic and Paralympic Games. So I said when we came to office just over 150 days ago that we would get the show back on the road when it came to the Olympic and Paralympic Games. We did the work, we developed a plan, and now it's time to get on with it. And get on with it we will for every part of Queensland. And nothing delights me more than to see the benefit that will flow to the people of the far north. I'm going to hand over to Bree.
The city is abuzz with the news that was announced 2 days ago that Cairns is going to be one of the host cities for the Olympics. Young children, sporting communities, the basketball community, the soccer community are really thrilled and excited by this news. It's going to be a game changer for far north Queensland to not have to travel down for the Olympics. The Olympics are coming to us. So it's a very exciting time for far north Queensland with 2 venues, with Barlow Park and the Cairns Convention Centre as well. So boys and girls, if you're watching this right now, I encourage you to start training hard because the Olympics are coming.
Thank you. Yes, sport is part of the DNA in far north Queensland, and for the Olympics to come to town, that's just fantastic for our aspiring young athletes. You know, to see the best of the best in their hometown is absolutely something that we've never ever would have expected up here. So I'd particularly like to thank the Crisafulli government for this initiative.
Thank you. Good morning. Yes, I'd like to thank the Premier for announcing Cairns as an Olympic city, and of course this government investing in the regions but believing in Cairns. Now look, we're ready to lace up and do everything we can to make this an experience not only for the locals but also the visitors. We know that we're going to get visitors here. The exciting part about these upgrades is investment in our city is that they're going to happen quite soon, and we're going to have this green and gold runway between now and 2032, and we can promote Cairns as that real sports destination city. We know that that humidity is the new altitude, and we've got heaps of humidity, particularly right now, and we want those teams to come here and train. So we're super excited. Cairns is definitely ready to be one of those amazing destinations that you can come and have that experience. And for locals alike, seeing their heroes in their own backyard, it just doesn't get any better than that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor. I can feel the altitude. Over to you guys.
When can we expect works to begin at Barlow Park?
Sooner the better, and there'll be money in our first budget in just a couple of months. Obviously 2032 is the end game, the window, but it shouldn't have to wait to cut a ribbon until then. Your local kids should be able to use it soon. And if we can get the work done sooner than that, that means people can benefit from it sooner than that. So money will start to flow from the first budget, and that's exciting for all the people in the north and far north.
It's been quite a number of years, probably a couple of decades since there was an Olympic football venue this small. Is there any thought given to something more permanent that maybe costs more but potentially higher capacity or permanency?
Look, the investment we're putting into Barlow Park is significant, make no mistake. But I don't think regions should be deprived the ability to host world-class games because there aren't stadiums the size of which you see in a capital city. I have this view that it's more than just about the bums on seats. It's also about what can happen when the eyes of the world are looking at a regional centre. And part of the vision for the Olympic and Paralympic Games, and this is something that Bree in her assistant minister role is working a lot with Andrew Powell on, is how can we make the most of a 2032 deadline to develop new product. Now, you've heard me speak once or twice about Wongetti. I think that's a world-class opportunity, the Wongetti Trail. It's just been completely and utterly bogged down because of a lack of vision and an inability to be able to deliver something. But that's going to change. And that's a world-class product if we get that right. What I want to see is when the eyes of the world are on Queensland, I want them to be on all of Queensland. Imagine someone sitting at home in their cold lounge chair watching images being beamed out of the Great Barrier Reef and someone walking through Wongetti Trail. That's worth something. It's worth something not just in the short term but the long term. So yes, it's about sport, but it's also about opportunities economically. It's about building better facilities. It's about making sure that we have better roads. It's about making sure that we develop new product for people to be able to work and make a living. So it's an exciting opportunity.
Is it the full $91 million project?
Yeah, mate, we might be able to do a little better than that too. You never know.
Master builders this year in Queensland could need up to 30,000 to 40,000 extra construction workers per year to keep up with all the work across the sector, including the Olympics.
Yeah.
Will the state be able to attract that many?
They're right, and it's justifiable to raise it, and it's a challenge, but I also see it as an opportunity. I think there's a real play there. There's a real play to train our kids to be able to become qualified and do great things. There's also the opportunity to attract people from interstate to come and build homes and live in Queensland. And the benefit of an event like this, if you get it right for all of Queensland, which this plan does, is yes, there's an element of kids who will have the opportunity to compete on the world stage and put a medal around their neck. But the bigger play is the young person who can put a hard hat on and get a job in the area they live. And it can really drive the opportunity economically for a long time. That's always been my focus. There was a lot of talk in the last 1,300 and plus days about how cold the champagne would be and how red the carpet would be. That's not my focus. My focus is on making sure every square inch of this state benefits, not just in sporting infrastructure, but also in generational infrastructure like roads and rail, and the identity that comes with the opportunity to boost your tourism, to make sure that you can drive the economic opportunities. That's always been my focus.
There's also a big hospital infrastructure, housing, transport pipeline.
Yeah.
How will the government balance all the projects with other government projects be pushed
Yeah,
back?
no, it's a great question. The answer is no. We can do that, and that's something that I know we will have to work hard at. But I don't accept that if you plan properly and deliver things on time and on budget, that we can't meet the demand that's there in the next 10 years. That excites me. Yes, it's a challenge, but I think it's as much an opportunity. And if we get it right in the next decade and beyond, we can set this state up for generations. This is our golden era. We're on the cusp of it, and every part of the state can benefit from it. So at the same time that, yes, we'll have to develop sporting infrastructure, we also have to get our roads right. We have to build the hospitals that haven't been delivered for more than 10 years. We have to make sure that we have water and sewerage and bridges and develop new opportunities for education. But that excites me.
Speaking of hospitals, Labor is saying that there are plans to cut the $6
Yeah.
billion worth of funding. Is this true?
Well, it's sad, it's desperate, and it's completely and utterly wrong. And what I'd say to the former government is please get on board as we fix the mess in the health system that's been created in the last 10 years.
So can you confirm there's no change to the Cairns hospital expansion?
There absolutely is no change. The complication is the opposition comes in and they just say things that they also know isn't the case. And that doesn't do any good for anyone. It doesn't do any good for the people who roll up their sleeves and go and work there, the people who want the opportunity to build what hasn't been built in the last 10 years. So the benefit about what we're doing, restoring productivity onto job sites, and that's why we re-established the Productivity Commission, is so that people can go to work and these things can be built. Because they wouldn't have been built because the money that was there based on the delivery methodology and projects blowing out in time and budget means that they wouldn't have been built. So we've saved that from occurring. And it's a little bit rich for the same people who didn't build anything for 10 years, who know that we are doing the diligence to be able to deliver things on time and on budget, to come in and try and scare the people who work there. That does no one any good. So the answer, to be really clear, the answer is no. That's not the case, and the former government also know that. But sometimes desperate people do desperate things.
So what are the plans then for the Cairns Hospital, and how are they going to fit into this Olympic infrastructure?
It's a great question. When you are building facilities for a big event, I would argue it's more important that you do the nuts and bolts and the everyday things. It's actually more important, and it's important that you don't get distracted. So the upgrade at Barlow Park, that's a really, really important part for this community. But upgrading a hospital and creating a world-class health precinct is even more important, and both can go together. One provides you the opportunity to shine on the world stage. The other provides the opportunity for people to live here and have world-class health services in a regional area, and they deserve that. A city the size of Cairns deserves world-class health services, and they're going to finally get them. They voted for change, and they're going to get the change they deserve.
Will the Centenary Pool be knocked down for the Aquatic Centre, and how will it be heritage listed?
Look, the Centenary Pool will have new life breathed into it, and not a moment too soon. And what we're talking about is not a lick and a polish. We're talking about the best swimming and aquatics venue in the world. Think about that. Queensland is going to have the Queensland is going to have the greatest aquatics venue on the planet. And think about the opportunity for that, both in training the next generation of champions, but also attracting the kinds of tournaments that Queensland should. Swimming's part of who we are. It's part of our identity as Queenslanders, and it's a pretty exciting development.
The GECO review noted significant security concerns, insufficient flat accessible plate for the Olympics overlay, and that it would be significant earthworks and utility works. How do you plan to overcome these issues?
Of course there are challenges, but we will get through them, and we will create something really special as well. And security at these events is always important, but as we saw during G20 over a decade ago, Queensland is more than capable of being able to provide security at big ticket events. That was as big as it got. 20 of the highest profile leaders on the planet. There was Obama was here, Putin was here. It was a showcase of Queensland emergency services on display. So I've got every faith that we will provide an amazing games that is safe, and above all, an amazing games that gives opportunities for kids right across the state and people the opportunity to earn a living from the infrastructure, road, rail, tourism that will come from it.
Looking at the Olympics promo video, why are New South Wales Park victims included?
Well,
is this error fixed, and how much does this cost taxpayers?
It was a mistake. It's been fixed, and it won't cost taxpayers a cent.
What will need to be done to the Gabba to make the games ready, and how much will it cost?
No, the Gabba is the Gabba will have a final swan song in 2032. I hope it's Australia beating someone in the cricket, and then that venue will come down, and that will be a fitting swan song for a place where I have many happy memories.
Just moving on to some local health issues, what's the latest on the melioidosis outbreak, and is Queensland doing enough to educate people?
It is serious, and if you look at the correlation comparing this year to last year, you know just how serious it is. And Queensland Health will continue to provide information, but I obviously urge people to do those little things to keep yourself as healthy as you can. And it is really important because there is a big challenge that comes from it, and we're urging people to make sure that you take all the precautions in whether or not you're in the garden or whether or not you're cleaning up after an event. Just do the little things to keep yourself safe, because that's the biggest priority.
Just on information, Queensland Health isn't releasing the ages, genders or localities of the people to us.
Yeah.
How are we supposed to keep people safe and informed?
Let me follow that up for you.
Back onto the Olympics. Bywater and Cross of Victoria Park. How are we going to sell this to Queenslanders?
It'll be done within the $7.1 billion budget, which is the commitment we gave. And the reason why we're able to do that is because we have, working with the private sector to be able to deliver the arena, which means there's north of $2 billion freed up, working with the federal government to be able to deliver those other facilities. And if we hadn't have done that, then you wouldn't have a world-class swimming venue, you wouldn't have an upgrade to the RNA, and you wouldn't have venues in regional Queensland. So that was the trade-off we made, and in the end it's turned out to be a better outcome because we can get the private sector to develop something world-class and reinvest the money into the facilities that the state should own. It's a good outcome.
When do you hope to release the finer details on a lot of these venue costs?
We will continue to do that. We'll work with all of the providers, including on the Athletes Village. I just make the commitment to Queenslanders. We have looked the federal government in the eye and said that we won't be asking for any extra money. They are contributing nearly half, just short of 50% of the $7.1 billion. We know that we can do it for that amount because we know we have discipline in the way we build projects, and we know that we respect people's money. And by doing so, we can create a world-class games, but best of all, we can make sure that the money that we drive is on that generational investment on road and rail and tourism, whilst also creating world-class venues within that budget.
Part of the upgrade for Barlow Park is also upgrading the Western Arterial Road. Can you talk us through that and why it's important?
Well, it's important because a growing region like the far north needs roads and road connectivity, and it's not acceptable that you can continue to have communities that are at the mercy of roads that haven't been upgraded over the years. And whether that be because of road width, whether that be a lack of overpasses, whether that be low-lying points right up and down the far north, it's important that we deliver road infrastructure. The population of Cairns isn't going to be going backwards. People have discovered this place, great lifestyle, and people who live here aren't leaving in a hurry either. So you have to build infrastructure, not just for Brisbane, and I hope people have seen in our short time in office that we're serious about regional Queensland.
Do you know when that project will finish and what exactly it entails?
The Transport Minister will be having a focus on that as part of the budget. One of the big challenges for us is to make sure that we can not just catch up what hasn't been done in recent times, and I don't just talk about new roads, I also talk about there's a backlog, a maintenance backlog north of $7 billion at the moment. So it's not just catching up in regional areas doing maintenance, it's not just building new roads, it's also about catching up with that and then looking into the future. So there's a big challenge for us. The Minister wrote to the Federal Minister just this week outlining some of our vision for ahead of the Olympic and Paralympic Games. That project's one of them, and we look forward to getting our fair share and getting on with delivering it.
Transport Minister Brent Mickelberg isn't ruling out privatising the Sunshine Coast rail bus system, saying he would welcome private investment to fund the bill. Do you agree that would be a
Look, I haven't heard what Brent said. I won't comment on that. I haven't seen that.
How much is the Wave train bus network forecast to cost?
Well, let's continue to do the analysis, but I do want to talk about the Wave and why what we're doing is important and why doing the independent review was so valuable. So the past. So the former government said they were going to stop rail at Caloundra. The community justifiably were up in arms. That would have created an absolute car park in Caloundra. Already the traffic in Caloundra is just unbearable, so it would have created an absolute disastrous situation. We listened to that and said, okay, we won't do that. We will take it through to Maroochydore. Now, what the review said, and we listened for good reason, they said to do that, to stop it at Maroochydore, misses a golden opportunity. You need people to be able to get on public transport from the airport if you want that asset used properly during the games. They advised that we wouldn't have time to deliver heavy passenger rail to the airport, but they said if you didn't provide public transport to there, the benefit wasn't there long term. So the model was provided, and it makes sense. We continue heavy passenger rail through Caloundra to Batinia, and then from Batinia we go a metro system through the Maroochydore CBD all the way to the airport. So someone can fly into the sunny coast, hop on the Wave and ride it all the way to Brisbane. That's generational infrastructure, and with that will come the ability of the sunny coast to be able to have the airport reach its full potential.
So how much will it cost, particularly the extra stage from Maroochydore to Sunshine Coast?
We're doing due diligence on that at the moment, and the first stage, the costings of that did blow out massively under the former government, so we're working with the federal government to make sure that we secure the funding we'd like to see. But my commitment to Queenslanders is it will be built ahead of 2032.
So you're unsure of how much it will cost?
Well, as part of any transport project, you have to do a proper business case and you have to do proper due diligence. So that process is happening. It's never been done. Until 48 hours ago, the notion of going all the way through to Maroochydore hadn't been fleshed out. So there's a lot of work to do, but we're confident that it's one of those generational projects we have to do.
Mr. Barlow, you said you might be able to get it done for cheaper than 91.
No.
What's the notional cost of this project?
I'm glad you've asked me. So we've budgeted 91 million, and that's the commitment that we've said we'll do. I just think that maybe we might be able to do a little better when the eyes of the world are on us. Watch this space.
Looking at Rockhampton and the rowing, why is the government committed to this location without a feasibility study, and how are you going to make it work efficiently?
Because I've seen what rowing means to Rocky, and I've seen what bringing the games regionally has meant to communities already. I've had it raised already this morning when I went for a walk on the Esplanade. I already had somebody raise with me, thanks for doing things in regional Queensland, and yesterday in Rocky the mood was electric. So I do not accept the argument that a river where our kids row every day of the week and has hosted international teams and state championships is not suitable. That's just people who don't believe in regional Queensland. I do. And the rowing will be held in Rockhampton. Football will be held in Cairns. Townsville and Whitsundays will host sailing. And that's the deal. And we look forward to world-class games. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to see some pretty special things in Brisbane. Of course you will. But so too will you in Sunny Coast and Gold Coast, and you'll see equestrian in Toowoomba, and you're going to have things in Moreton Bay and Ipswich and Logan. They're all pretty good places. They're great places, actually, and I look forward to it.
Will any of the football be held outside Clonside?
Yes, it will. We want to make sure that regional areas benefit from it, but as part of that, and as part of what has been negotiated, there will be some of that.
Why have we not seen better messaging from Queensland Health about melioidosis given the severity and also the rain events that are occurring across the state?
Well, I've spoken about it a number of times, and I continue to do that. I was in Ingham the other day doing it, where I've got friends and family still cleaning up. The message remains consistent to people, and that is there is a real risk. There is a real risk. But you can mitigate that risk by the things you wear, the hygiene standards that you do. No one is suggesting that people in a magnificent part of the world shouldn't go about their lives. And in the case of recovering from a disaster event, of course you've got to get in. But just do the little things to keep yourself safe. And we'll continue to provide that messaging every time that I stand up.
And will the department provide the messaging?
Yeah, it is there on Queensland Health's website, but if more needs to be done, you bet we'll be asking Queensland Health to do it. But from my point of view, my messaging has been very consistent on this, and that is I want people to just go about their lives and continue to live their lives, but just do the little things to keep yourself safe. The clothes you wear, the hygiene that you practice, and I've got every faith in Queenslanders.
One more question, sorry. About the common use facility. Is this something that is government's priority because federal is really waiting on?
Well, no, I've spoken to the Prime Minister about it. I'm mindful about the project. I'm also mindful about some of the cost blowouts that weren't shared with Queenslanders. And we'll do everything we can to make sure that we get a real opportunity there. And we will continue to work with the federal government about their co-contribution to that.
So you haven't committed?
Well, there's a lot was spoken before change of government, and you can go and have a look in the budget papers and see how much was allocated. No one's ever built anything with people talking about things and not budgeting them. So that was the practice in years gone by. That's not our practice. So we'll continue to work with the federal government, and we'll develop infrastructure for regions that are growing, which is why I'm here today.
When will we know the new dollar figure though for the park? Because I think we're waiting on state government.
Well, work's being done on that, but I'm just making the observation that the project that wasn't properly funded, and there was a lot of talk about it, we take a different approach, and I'd rather work constructively with the federal government. We don't ever give them an inch, but we'll always work constructively with them. But when you do projects, you've got to properly budget for them, and you've got to do them on time and on budget, and you've got to share that with the community, which is what we'll do. In terms of the federal government, I think we've done reasonably well in our attitude. We are never patsies, but we are never overtly political. We are forceful, and we bat for Team Maroon. And on the back of it, we got 80-20 funding for the Bruce Highway that people said couldn't be done, and we secured the best Queensland schools deal ever in the history of the school. Both things that people said to me wouldn't occur. All right, guys.
Oh, right.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks, man.
Molly's run down the track in the road.
Oh, yeah.
No.
That dress.